Hi. Hello everyone, welcome back to Cornertwist. To all of my returning viewers, you already know what's going on. It's good to have you back. To all my new viewers, this series on my channel is dedicated to helping people become sub 20 as fast as possible. My goal is to try to structure each of these videos to build on previous concepts so that way whenever you watch them, you'll be ready and prepared for the next subjects that we talk about. It's similar to mathematics. It's like if you were trying to learn algebra without learning how to add first. Okay, yes, a brief recap. In the last video, we talked about advanced crosses and how to build them as efficiently as possible for now. We will get back to them in way later videos, but for now, that's all you need to know about the cross, I think. And then the video before last video, episode 4, we talked about we talked about starting F2L. I've gotten you acquainted with the basics of F2L, and now I think we're ready to move forward into more of the intermediate to advanced concepts. Yeah, I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Let's get into it, shall we? So I want to go back and briefly touch on something that I mentioned in my last video. In particular, this case where you have the opposite pairing going on here. So just to give you a glimpse of what's going on, all of these slots are filled. All of these columns are good. At this point, we just have this opposite pairing, and usually we would get it to go in with this short trigger like that. The new concept that I introduced in the last video was talking about inserting into back slots, which if you were around for that part, we do the same thing where we match up this side color to the center cap color, and then we insert in the same way with the same moves, but just different finger tricks because it's obviously on the back side of the cue. Yep, you can do it with that case, and you can also do it with this case. This case is the good pairing that you are familiar with. Normally how we would solve this is we would use a sledgehammer to insert it like this and make this a good column. Instead, I mentioned this at the very beginning of the basic F2L video, but you can also insert it by bringing up the cross piece right here and then sliding this to meet it, and then bringing it back down. The trigger for it's simple. It's just L prime U L. So of course we can insert this from the back as well by putting this on the back like this, and then inserting it with an R prime U R, and then that inserts. Also, I'm going to address a question that you guys might have. Whenever I refer to these slots as back slots or front slots or whatever, because I identified them before as columns. This was what I referred to as a good column because it had the correct edge and center piece within this column oriented in the correct way. And in the same way, this was a bad column because it doesn't have one, two, or neither of the pieces within it. Columns and slots are essentially the same thing. Whenever you hear someone say, I'm going to solve this into the front slot, they mean take this pair right here and then insert them into this column. All right, so now the question is, why do we insert into a back slot? Well, it's time to introduce you to the concept of look ahead. So the concept of look ahead is kind of what it sounds like. You're looking ahead to the next part of the process to see if you can spot what you're doing while you're doing something else. So for example, a very simple example here. I have one good pair right here, and I've also got a good pair right here. Well, in look ahead, the idea is that I would insert this one, but then also have this one in mind, and then be thinking about how to solve this while I'm solving this one. So how that would look like is I insert this one here, but then automatically I'm going to slide this one over because I want to insert it here. So then I can just easily insert right after. So while I'm looking at this, I insert it, and then I'm instantly bringing this over to insert that next one. So when we insert into a back slot, it allows us to look at what's in front of us easier. At this point, we have a cube with two slots filled like this, and we're holding them kind of away from us. So what we have visible to us right now are these two bad columns and the U layer, which we can freely spin around. The amount of information we have available to us right now, because we have these two back slots filled is much more than if we would have if we were holding it such as this way. Your knowledge is a lot more limited whenever you have front slots filled when you're trying to solve all of F2L. And when you're going for efficiency, you don't really want to be turning the cube around and looking every which way to find your next pair, because you want to just go ahead and know what you're going to be doing before you even get there. Having the fastest finger tricks in the world aren't going to help you if you don't know what pieces you need to turn. So if it comes down to you learning amazing finger tricks or learning advanced look ahead, you'd always want to go with the look ahead. That brings us to another important topic I want to talk about, which is rotating. At this point, I fully expect most of you to find your pieces, like your corners and edges, by rotating around the cube viciously, looking for them. For example, if I asked you to show me where the corresponding corner piece is to this one, so the green and red, you would say, okay, green and red, I need to find that. I'm going to just rotate. Here it is. I need to flip my cross back, point in the floor. There it is. Yeah, that's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid turning the cube every which way to find the pieces we're looking for. I'm going to show you a much more efficient way to look for pieces. So even in a situation like this where you don't have any of your slots filled, you can still find the pieces that you need relatively easy by using the U layer to look around and by just kind of glancing at the cube. Really, you don't need to do all this kind of stuff. What you're going to be looking for are just the steps that we talked about in basic F2L. So you pick up your cube and you're beginning to start F2L. Your cross is done. What are you looking for? You're just looking for white corner pieces, such as these two. Imagine you pick up the cube and you're in this position right here. I don't see any white corner pieces or stickers, so I'm just going to either turn like this, and then there's two of them, so I don't have to look very far, and pretend that we didn't find these two. Well, now I'm just going to do a quick glance downwards, and then I can find one. Yeah, you really don't have to rotate around the cube like a bad man to find what you're looking for. So as soon as we can nip that bad habit, we're gonna nip it. Okay, now we're going to get into the concept of actual advanced F2L. I'm not just calling it advanced F2L, that's actually a term to describe, well, I'll just show you. Let's look at the cube, for example. In this case, we have all of our columns filled except for this one. Here's the edge that we're going to be focusing on, as well as this corner piece. So normally when we look at this, we either look at it from this angle or this angle. Either way, you're going to get it up into the top layer and then move it out of the S slice right here. Bring your corner piece back up, and then now you identify the pairing type. It's either good or opposite. You would identify that this is a good pairing, and then you would use a bad column to pair these two up like this, and then you would insert. But the concept of advanced F2L is understanding that you can pair these up very well before you even bring out this piece. If we did it the exact way that we did it a minute ago, we would bring it out like this. Now you have to pair these together. But you can hide this piece by using this column the exact same way that we brought it out. So let me show you again. Bringing this piece up, moving it out, bringing this back down. It's good to understand that this piece needs to go here, right? Because it's a good pairing. We would hide this piece again using the same bad column that was just here to hide this piece, and then move this edge piece to be right next to it. So from the front, it would look like this, where you bring this up, move it out of the way, bring this back up, and then now you need to bring this all the way back over here. So you're putting this back down again just to move this over here. If we think critically about this, we're doing a lot of extra things that we don't need to be doing. So this whole bringing this up into the top layer and then moving it over here and bringing this back up just to hide this back down here and move this over there to get it to pair up is kind of pointless. Understand that you can avoid all of that simply by not moving it this way, but by moving it back here right off the bat to match it up. To put it into perspective, you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and maybe even a double rotation if you're trying to see it from the front like this, moved just to pair these two up. Where realistically, starting from this position, all you need to do is 1, 2, 3, and now you're in the exact same pair position. All right, let's use the same example again, except we're going to hold the cube from this side this time. Last time we held it from this side, now we're going to hold it from this side. And notice that whenever we bring this up, now it brings up the red. So if we move this out of the way and we bring back this cross piece here, these two now get paired up using an opposite pairing, since this now does not need to come back here. And it is already paired here like this. So the normal way to bring this up actually pairs these two together. So we would bring this up into the top layer, slide it out of the way of this L slice, and then bring it back down. But I want you to understand that that is intentional. Like, there's another way that we could bring this up that would be not as good. So if we start here, you may have found that you can also do an F move to get this up into the top layer and slide it out of the way and then bring this back. So two ways of bringing this edge piece up, but one of them was way more efficient because one of them paired the two pieces together off the bat, where now you're going to have to rotate, use this bad column to hide this corner piece, and then move this one here to be beside it. But yeah, that is in essence what advanced F2L is. It's understanding that you can bring up the edge into the top layer or the corner. If you have a corner that's already up in into the top and you recognize that and you try to get a corner up into the top layer, they both work the same. Then you can pair them up a lot more efficiently than what I've been teaching so far. So far, we've taught that you bring up the corner first and then make sure that it's good before you work with the edge piece. But in advanced F2L, you can identify a case such as this one where you have this corner with the green, red, and white stickers on it. So its corresponding edge pieces right here. If you know that these two are in the positions that they are, anywhere on the cube, like these can be anywhere, eventually you're going to know where to put them in order to make a pairing happen when you bring this up into the top layer. Just to show you what that looks like, when I see these two, I know that I can move this up into the top layer like this, move it this way, and then bring it back down. And that actually creates a good pairing that I can insert like that. An incorrect way of doing this, or maybe less efficient way of doing this, would be to maybe have it start on this side first, where then you would bring up this piece, move it this way, and then bring it back down, where you've got your corner up into the top layer, but now this piece is not only somewhere else not paired with this corner piece, but it's back in the S layer. So yeah, advanced F2L is just understanding what to do to get the pieces that you're working with, the corners and the edges, to pair together with as least resistance as possible. I'm going to go over with you today the U layer cases of advanced F2L so that way we can get them down, and then we have a bunch more to cover, but we're going to do that in later videos. There is yet one more thing I want to talk about though before we get to actually showing the advanced F2L pairings. And that concept is edge orientation. If you've never heard of this term before, it's referring to, of course, an edge piece and how it's oriented. So there's a good orientation and a bad orientation. A good and comparable example to what a bad oriented edge looks like is this case that we had before in building the cross solutions. As you can see, the white is not going to be facing the cross if we put it down in here like that, obviously. So even though this is a bad oriented edge or an unoriented edge up here in the top U layer or in the D layer, it actually becomes a good oriented edge or just an oriented edge whenever we slide it to the left or right like this. The reason for this is that we need F moves to correct this edge. So if we were to try to insert right off of here, we would need to go like this and do that 3 mover that we know of. The reason that this is a good oriented edge is because we can insert it using only L and U or D moves. So in terms of a cross, we would use L or R and D moves. So we would just do this. We can apply that to the F2L edges as well, where we have this one here is kind of offset from red right here. The color over top of the center cap color is opposite to it. That's how you know that it's an oriented edge. With an oriented edge such as this one, the colors are opposite. That means that you can insert the pairing with only U and either R or L moves. So for example, this opposite paired case can be inserted R prime, U prime, R. Let's take this same pairing and pretend that it was like this when we started holding it. Now it's over top of its similar color. This red is over top of the orange. So we will no longer be able to insert this with only R, L, or U moves. We would need to either rotate like this and insert, or we would have to know some other way of inserting it without rotating, such as this one. So identifying an oriented or unoriented edge right off the bat is kind of helpful. It helps you know what pairing is going to be most effective, because if you have an oriented edge, it's always going to be a lot faster than trying to insert something that is not. So if we compare the two, where we have an oriented edge pairing like this, then we can insert in 1, 2, 3 moves. And then of course, if we have an unoriented edge, we would have to turn the U layer like this to then pair it up. So that's 1, then 2, 3, 4. And we had to come out of the home grip position to do this. That may not seem like a big deal, but everything counts whenever you're trying to move efficiently as possible. Take this case for instance. Whenever you have the oriented edge, this case is solved easily enough just by doing this. That's 1, 2, 3 moves as compared to doing it the sledgehammer way, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 moves. And then if you're holding this case from this angle, there's another option of doing this to insert, which is 5 moves. So every time that I can think of, solving a case with an oriented edge is going to be more efficient than solving without one. So even though we have the same case here, this is one way of looking at it with an unoriented edge, and then this is a completely different case. So you have to know how to solve both. All right, now we're going to try to learn some new advanced F2L cases. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to be doing the most basic ones where we have the corner and the edge piece in the top, because that's what we've learned so far. So I'm going to be showing you in terms of having every F2L slot filled, but just know that some cases might be easier to do if you have more than one F2L column available. We're going to start off with one that we're already familiar with. We have this case where the edge is oriented. Remember how to tell is that this color, red, is opposite of this color, blue. Remember my terminologies. The red is similar to orange because they're across from each other on the cube. It's opposite to this color blue because, well, red and orange are warm colors and blue and green are considered cool colors. So I just refer to these two color groupings as being warm or cool, so opposite and similar. And of course, whenever they're together like this, it's the same color, it's just matching. Okay, so when we have the oriented edge, then we just solve like this. It's the same for solving into the back slot as well. So when we have this oriented edge, then we would put this block on this side of the cube, bring up this bad column, and then slot it in with a U2 and fix the cross. Okay, so from this angle, we have the unoriented edge because it's over top of its matching color. This one is our sledgehammer case, which you're familiar with. So to insert this one, it's just sledgehammer. If you get it from this angle and you have an unoriented edge like this, there's a way you can put it in the back. I actually recommend just rotating and solving it like the previous mentioned way, but I know that you may be curious of how to do it, so I'm going to show you. So you're going to align it with this color on the back like this, and then input this algorithm. I'm going to take the liberty of putting the triggers up there on the screen for you just to help you with knowing how the pieces move. But just keep in mind that whenever you're doing anything in F2L, it's better to do it intuitively than to be relying on algorithms forever. They're good to learn with, but you're going to get a lot more out of solving things intuitively rather than not. Next up, I'm going to talk about this one. It's really just the same as this, but you need to take the time to put them into this pairing. So if you're noticing how this comes to pair with this one, it sits over top of an opposite centerpiece color, so the edge is oriented. From here, you would just do the thing that we did before with the oriented edge from the back, like that. I guess I can mention this too. You can also do a U2 and put this on the back here, and then bring this bad column up, and then slot it in. Alright, so we have this case again, but this time it's from the other side of the cube, where you're going to have to hide this corner piece using a bad column that we no longer have here. But since the edge is oriented, it means that we can solve this case without having to rotate or use F moves. So if we put the corner piece and edge piece in this position, we can then use this column, this bad column, to hide this corner piece back here, right there, and then move this to where it needs to go, being right here. So that way when we bring this corner back up, now they are ready to be inserted like this. So again, when you get this, you just rotate them into the back position like this, so that way you can take advantage of this bad column, pair them together like this, and then bring it to the front where you can then insert it like that. Okay, now we have this case, but it's an unoriented edge case this time. So the only way we're going to be able to solve this is if we rotate again to hide this corner piece and then pair them together like that. Or you can also insert this by placing it in this position here and then inputting this algorithm. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. Whenever you're using the wide move ones that I'm showing you to insert without doing the rotations, they're best left for last slot cases because of look ahead. If you're using those while you still have other slots to do, it could hinder your look ahead, even if you're solving into the back slot. So just keep that in mind and use them kind of sparingly. Just use your discernment. Of course, what we just did can also be done from the back as well. So you just do the reverse of that. And of course, whenever you have this case, the edge is oriented, so you need to pair them up, and then you can insert this into the back slot, just like before. In the same way, whenever you have this case from this angle this time, you just pair them together by using this bad column here to hide this one. So pair them up and then insert into the front slot. If you're facing this angle and the edge is unoriented like this, there's a way that you can insert without rotating, and it goes like this. And then the same thing for the other side where this is still unoriented. You're solving to this slot right here. You just do the opposite of what we just did. So this is an annoying one where even if you have the oriented edge, you still have to do a lot of moves to solve it. We actually want to turn this into a different pairing, one that we won't cover today, but we'll turn it into this by using the alg that I provided on the screen, followed by the rest of it. So the rest of it would look like this. This case is equally as annoying from this angle where the edge is still oriented. First, put this right here because it's going in this slot, and then you would start this algorithm. All right, so whenever you have the unoriented version of this case, you would put this block kind of over here with the white sticker on the right side where this bad column is, and then use this bad column to hide this corner piece, move this edge over here, and then bring back up the corner piece. And then now you kind of have this case where we've shown it before, so I'm just going to quickly show you again, and that's how you can insert it. And of course, the same thing goes for this side where if you have the unoriented edge from this angle, you can do the same thing by just moving this edge away from this, and then you kind of come back into this case that we've already shown. Okay, I want to go back to the oriented version of this case real quick. Before, what we were dealing with was a case where all of our other F2L slots were full, but this is one where you want to pay attention to whether or not you have extra ones available, because you don't have to go through the lengthy algs if you have these available, and I'll show you what I mean here. You could also pair this up by using this bad column and doing this, and that actually pairs these two up a lot quicker than the other version that I gave you, which was crazy long. And now you can just pair them up together like this and insert. In the same way, if you have this column available, you can do the same thing but from here. So imagine this one was filled and you had to use this one, no problem. You can put this on its side, move it this way, bring this back up, and then now these are paired in the same way and you can still insert the same way. All right, moving on from the good pairings, we have now the opposite pairings. So this one is one that we're already familiar with. You just insert like this. Then we also know that we can insert this from the back slot as well. So same thing as before, we have this color matching this color. We can then pair them up together like that and then connect them to the cross piece and then drop it into the back. With the opposite pairing where the edge is not oriented, you're either going to have to rotate and put it in the back like this, which is probably the better way. Or if you leave it at this angle, you can then do this. And then from the other angle where the edge is unoriented, I showed you this earlier, you can match up the color to its color and then do this. Okay, now we have the opposite pairing again, only this edge that's supposed to be here is here. So the best way to solve this is just to put this back where it needs to be. And since the edge is oriented, we only need to bring this up to the front to hide it with this bad column. So like that, and then move this over to here where it needs to go. So we bring this back up, and then now we have the opposite pairing paired up and ready to go that we can insert into the front slot like normal. And then from this angle, the edge is still oriented. So we need to put this piece here so that way we can make the opposite pairing happen. And then we need to hide this corner using this bad column like that, and then put this edge piece where it needs to go. So here, and then bring this back up. And now it's ready to be inserted just as before with the back slot. And honestly, the best way to deal with this one where the edge is not oriented is just to treat it like one of the previous ones, and then move this edge over here and then insert into a back slot. For this one, I just don't know of any that actually inserts this without having to rotate in an efficient manner anyway. To me, it's not worth doing a bunch of extra things when I can just pair together like this and then rotate to solve. All right, the next case we have is this one. So it's actually very easy to accomplish this when we have this opposite pairing that needs to be made with this oriented edge. We just need to hide this corner like that using this bad column, move this piece here to properly place it, and bring this back up. And then now you have a correctly paired opposite pairing that can just be inserted into the back like that. Same thing goes for the other angle. This is still oriented, so we need to leave it where it was, hide this corner using this bad column, move this here, bring this corner back up, and then now they're paired and ready to go. You can just bring them back and insert like before. From this angle where the edge is not oriented, just like before, there's not really a good way to insert this that's efficient enough. So we need to rotate this U layer this way, as well as rotate, and then breaking these two apart like we have done, and then insert them into the back. Same thing with this unoriented side. We just need to rotate first, break them apart, insert them to the back. All right, for the next one, we're actually going to be talking about these white stickers facing up. So in the last F2L video, I talked about not worrying about those and trying to turn them into the other cases, but now we're going to leave them as they are, and I'm going to show you how to pair them together effectively with their edge piece. So understand that from this position where it's facing up, you need to still turn it to its side, but we do that by placing it over top of the bad column like this. So when we do that, we turn it over here out of the way to make sure our edge piece doesn't get snagged up in this L slice here. We then fix our cross piece, and then now we have a paired opposite pair right here. The only reason this is paired is because this red piece is right here. So from this angle, we can get away with it. But if this red piece was right here, or if you tried to turn this on the side using the F turning method, then you move it out of the way and you bring down your cross, you actually come out with this case, and we know that that's not good. So yeah, make sure that you're aware that this piece needs to be here, and then you can pair them together like that, and then insert regularly. And the same thing from this angle, where we have the oriented edge. We have this over top of a bad column, so we can just move it off of there and recognize that this already looks like a paired case. That's how we know that it worked. So we move this out of the way, and then we bring our cross piece back. And then now we can pair these like normal because it's an oriented edge. All right, where we have this as a non-oriented edge, we can still put this in the same spot as before, but this time we're going to kind of pair it up into this pairing, take it out, and then now this is the pairing here where we had, this is the unoriented case. Then of course from this angle where we have the still unoriented edge, we need to do the same thing, pair them together, and then turn them into this case once again. I want to show you one more option you have when dealing with this case. You can do this cool little F2L trick by bringing this up with a wide move, moving this over, and then this actually pairs this right here. From here, you would just do a U2, bring it back to meet the cross piece, and then do the wide move put the cross back and then undo the Y move to undo all of that. And that brings in this slot. There's actually a lot of F2L tricks that you can learn after you learn the basic ones that I'm teaching you. I'm only showing you tip of the iceberg in terms of what you can learn. Now you have this case where if the edge is oriented, then you're again going to use the bad column like this to turn this on its side. And then you need to take this with the U2 over to this position, because when you bring it back up, then this edge is still preserved here. And this is a correct opposite pairing. And then you can insert like this. And of course, from this angle, it's pretty much the same thing. You're just going to put this here, U2, bring it back up, and then now these two can be inserted like normal with a back slot insert. All right, here, if you have this unoriented case from this angle, you can move this here and then do a U2, bring this down, and then you have the beginning case where it was like this. And then of course, this same case from this angle, you would turn this L layer down, do the U2, and then now you have this case where you can do the same thing as before. One thing I can note about this particular case is that you can, instead of turning it into this one, like that, you can do an F move like this to turn it into this pairing. Slide it out of the way, and then now you can insert it like this. If you have this case, and the edge is oriented, you can then do this by sliding it over here and then putting in this algorithm. Yeah, I got it out wrong and I'm too lazy to do it the other way, but quickly it looks like this. So the same is actually done from this angle as well, where you would turn it to this side, kind of like we did from the front earlier, and then do the same algorithm but from the back, so like this. All right, whenever you have this case and the edge is not oriented, you can hold it here where its corner piece is right over top of the column that's going to slot into, and then input this algorithm. Make sure, by the way, that you can do it from the left-handed version as well. I'm only putting in one version most of the time, so make sure you can do the left-sided variations as well. I forgot to be mentioning that. Some of them are just mirrors where whenever I put in, say, a right-handed algorithm, you can do the same moves with the left side, do the same concepts, only invert the U moves. So if it's usually a U, you would do a U prime. And if it's normally like an R move, you would do and like an L prime. That's really the only difference. So I'll showcase that here with the previous one we just did. From this angle, it looks like this. And once you get to this point, then it's just this case, and then you pair it, or insert it rather. All right, and then from this side where you have the unoriented edge, you can put it over top of this bad column here. Move this so that way it's facing its side, and then move it away. Bring this back up, and then now you have this case. All right, we have this case. The edge piece is oriented. So how to insert it from here? You could do this algorithm. And essentially what this is doing is you're making this case kind of like the one I showed in the very beginning intro. And then if you remember that, we took this one out and put it back here to make this pairing, and then we would just simply input it like that. And then finally we have this case where the edge is not oriented from this angle. We do the same thing as before, only we have this column that's a bad column now to hide this one. So we do that. We put this one where it needs to go on the back, so when this one comes back up, it's a opposite pairing ready to go. We still have to rotate this to put it into the back like that, or we can use the other method of inserting. It's up to you. And then from the back, there's actually a really cool way you can do this. And I'm going to show you the first version where there's a good column in the front here. I'm going to put the alg up on the screen, but I also want you to follow me intuitively for a second. So the idea is to bring up this good column here and to hide this corner piece with it. So normally we don't do this, but in this alg it works. So from here, you take this edge, bring it to the front, and then now we bring up this corner, but now we're going to bring it one more rotation over and meet it. And from here, you see our cross piece back here is connected. Is here, so we can connect these two pieces. And then instead of just putting this back like this, we're going to bring it around full circle and then connect this piece. So very quickly, it looks like this. So the way that you can pair this pair without the front slot being a good column is just simply hiding this corner, just like we did before, but using this bad column, and then bringing this edge to the front. And then from here, when we bring this up to meet it, we do just what we did before. So slide it in to meet it, and then now there is no good column to bring back into this slot, so we can just put it down, and that inserts it, and there's nothing else to worry about here. All right, when we have this case again, but with the unoriented edge, I like to just hide this corner piece using a bad column, so we have to use this one. I just like to put it back here, hide this, bring this up to front where it needs to go, and then once I get this back up, we need to rotate, because there's not a more efficient way to do that that I'm aware of. Okay, same thing from this angle, where now this edge is unoriented. You need to hide this corner just like before, and now the bad column is here, so you can then put this where it needs to go to make it an opposite pairing, and then either do this insert or simply rotate and then insert like this. Okay, and I think that's all the cases that we need to do regarding the corners and edge pieces both being in the U layer. Now guys, there's a lot more advanced F2L cases to go over. That was just one category. The other categories will include the cases that have the corner pieces in the U layer while the edge pieces are in the S layer. The cases where the corner pieces are in the D layer while the edge pieces are in the S layer. And then the cases where the corner pieces are in the D layer still, but the edge pieces are in the U layer. Now we are only going to be doing one example solve today, mainly because there's not really a whole lot that needs to be shown in an example solve for today's video, because mostly everything's covered within the video, and me showing you again isn't really going to do much. However, we're still going to do one, and it will help with last video. I told you that we would be doing another example solve where I would be doing a cross solution using the advanced techniques that we learned last time. So if you came from last video just with the intention of watching this example solve, this is for you. I'm going to go ahead and put the scramble up on the screen, and remember to hold green facing you and white facing up. All right, your cube should look exactly like mine. All right, as we always do, we're going to turn the cross color to face the floor. And now we're going to take stock of all of our cross piece edges. So we've got two right here. We've got the orange and blue. We've got the green right here. And our last one is the red right here. So I've already spotted a very easy cross solution where we would slide this blue underneath the green. And notice that this orange is underneath the red. So by doing those two actions, we can go ahead and see that these two are relative to each other. Also, the red here is already in place to be relative to the orange once it comes down, as well as piggybacking the green to put it underneath the blue. So there's a couple of different ways we can hold this starting out. One way would be to hold it from this angle where we're facing blue, and this blue needs to come here. So we would start out with doing the D move like that to put in the blue. And then after we do that, we can then put in the orange and the red like that. Then the last thing to do would just be to put in the green from this position, and then do a D2 to align our cross. So now that we have our theory out of the way, we can go ahead and put it in. So we can think about how that would look for us. We would go here, then here, then here, then here, and then do the D move with the ring and then pinky fingers like that. So that's a 5 or 6 move cross depending on how you count the double flicks. So either are viable, but let's make sure that we're getting the most optimal cross solution before we start. So this way we can hold the cross from the opposite side of the cube and see if that becomes any better. So from this angle, I'm going to run through the cross solution with my fingers and just see where we can catch any flaws or advantages. So our first move would be to insert this blue underneath the green. So we would do that, and then insert this orange. Then from here, we're kind of left in this position. We can insert the green after piggybacking on the red. So insert the red here, then insert the green like this. Now we're left in this kind of awkward positioning where you can still do D2 with the ring and pinky finger on this hand, but it becomes a little bit more awkward. I guess it doesn't really matter either way as long as you can pull it off, but I definitely prefer the first example. And sometimes that's really what it comes down to. If you have a preference one way or the other, just go with the one that you prefer to do. Okay, we're putting in our first cross example, and now our cross is solved. From here, we're just going to do what we normally do with F2L. We're going to pick a corner to start out with. I like to find all my corners to start out with. So remember what we talked about earlier in the video. We don't want to be looking around like this to find our pieces. We want to hold it just like this and try to find as much as we can, just glances, and get used to not rotating. So we've got one corner right here, one corner right here, corner right here, and there's our fourth corner right there. So we don't have to rotate at all to find anything. Okay, this is important. Starting off on step one, we normally pick a corner piece, and usually it's in the top layer if we can help it. And then the next priority that we would look for is the ones facing up. We would try to eliminate them if we had ones facing to the side. With advanced F2L, it doesn't matter. What matters more is if the edge is up in the top layer with it. So this one's viable, although this case is trash. So let's see if there's a better one. You turn this way. We have this corner here, but we don't have the edge piece in the top layer with it. And then we also have this one where the edge piece is not in the top layer either. So out of these three, I would actually pick this one because both of the edges are in the top layer for now. So if you remember how to pair these together, you would use a bad column like right here to then put this edge back here. And this creates a pairing that we can insert like this. Now I just want to give you a disclaimer real quick. This is not the case that we would normally do if we knew full advanced F2L. Right now we only know the top layers, so I'm only going to be focusing on that. Next up, we look for another piece to start on. So we have any of these three to choose from. Again, I'm looking for edge pieces for any of them in the top layer. So far we're looking for orange. I'm not seeing any orange. Actually, it's right here. So we know that that's not up there. We're going to look for the red and blue. Looking, don't see any of that either. So then our last candidate is this green and orange corner piece right here. And this one actually does have it up in the top layer here. So for this case, we just turn it onto its side, move it out of the way, and then we bring this cross piece back, and it turns into this case, which if you remember how to pair it up, just use this bad column here to hide this corner piece, move this where it needs to go to make a good pairing, bring this back up, and then now we can insert it with a back slot by putting it here. All right, moving along, we have to find another corner piece to work with. So we've got this one or this one. Again, I'm just going to look for the edge piece of either one of these, and this one has it. Okay, so I'm hoping that this one's piece is up in the top layer as well, and it actually is. It's right here. Okay, so from here, if you remember how to pair these two together, it's this case where normally this piece needs to go here. That's all we're going to do is we're going to hide this corner piece using this bad column to then put this here, bring it back up, and then we're just simply making this case happen. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce to you look ahead. So I see this corner piece right here. I'm already focusing on him. This edge piece over here needs to go with him. So I'm thinking about him before I even insert this. And I know it's going to be hard first starting out to pay attention to more than one thing, but if you know that all you have to do is this to put it in, then you might want to go ahead and start looking for one or the other. So if you can find a corner piece to track, then that would be a good practice, or like an edge piece that you would need to track, then that's good practice. With my knowledge of look ahead, I know that whenever I input this opposite pairing, it's going to bring up this piece relative, or not really relative, but in place to pair up with this one. So whenever I do it, look at that, they're paired. So from here, this is an unoriented edge. So we either put it in with an F move like this, or we would rotate and make sure that we're putting it into the back slot whenever we can, unless we, for some reason, don't want to. Remember guys, everything that we do is about practice. So even if you don't have to do something every time, we're trying to build up good habits. So even if we don't have to do something like insert into a back slot for the last slot, if you have to turn one way or the other, just make sure that you're practicing turning the way that you would need to put it into a back slot is all I'm saying. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. I believe I covered everything. I have this nagging suspicion that I probably left out one case or something somewhere. So if I do end up missing more than I'd like to, I might make a episode, what is this? Might make an episode 6.5 or something like that, just to make sure that we cover everything. And depending on whether we needed it or not, I'll go over more of this stuff in more example solves. It just depends on what you guys want. Maybe some. Camera died right as I was about to finish my outro, whatever it is. I will say that in the next video, we will still be talking about F2L, but it won't be advanced F2L. It'll be on a practice that I've begun implementing myself. But anyway, I think it's a good continuation of what we're doing here, and it's going to get you used to doing some more good practices that are going to translate well into future videos. So I leave you with that. See you in the next one. Bye.